Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome back, everyone, to our reading of this great book of our Tariq, Qawa'id al-Tasawwuf, the Principles of Sufism by Sidi Ahmad Zarruq, picking up where we left off. Principle 91, and this is the top of page 70. قال المصنف رحمه الله ونفعنا بعلومه في الدارين آمين. So the author says, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, and may we benefit from his knowledge in this world and in the next. Principle 91, the goal of anything, the goal is to be in conformity with the truth, even though it might be in conformity with egocentric desire. So sometimes people can get into a psychology, which he'll talk about shortly, where they feel they have to do the opposite of everything they want to do in order to arrive at some sort of spiritual enlightenment. So he's saying, well, that's not the measuring stick. The measuring stick is the truth. What's the truth? And then what are we doing to arrive at the truth? It just so happens that I actually wanted to fast today, and today was a good day to fast. Okay, that's a good thing. And that's why he says the next line, so that Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, said, if the truth is in accordance with desire, that is honey mixed with butter. So that's great. Like you actually wanted to do the thing that was the truth. Now sometimes we have to go against our desires to arrive at the truth. Obviously that's the case. You know, I want to curse somebody or I want to hit somebody. Okay, don't do that. So you're going to counter that. But oftentimes, especially as you advance in the spiritual path, you find that your desire becomes in conformity with what Allah Ta'ala has asked of us. And that's a great thing. And he's saying, cherish that and celebrate that. Some people have so immersed themselves in opposing their egos that they have opposed the truth without being aware of it. I just want you to understand that this is probably one of the most brilliant things you'll ever come across. This insight is really, really penetrating. You will find this maybe amongst some Muslims, but you find this a lot with practitioners of Eastern religions. I mean real practitioners of the Dharmic faiths, Hinduism, Buddhism, etc. Maybe these type of people even don't exist that much anymore, but it's there, where it's a constant, I'm going to go against my own self. So there will be extreme ascetic practices. People that don't eat for months, don't drink for months, don't sleep, don't wear clothes. It's an extreme going against the desire. So let me read that again. Some people have so immersed themselves in opposing their egos that they have opposed the truth without being aware of it. An example, excusing themselves from performing obligatory and necessary duties that cannot be disregarded, or abandoning most of the practices of the Sunnah without rejecting it in principle, even to the extent of abandoning practices they were accustomed to follow. This, while agitating the self, pushes it towards falsehood and leads the seeker away from the goal. We ask God for our well-being. If you constantly oppose yourself and you engage in extreme ascetic practices, you will produce some type of result. Something will happen. So, if you're never eating and if you're never drinking and you're never sleep, I mean, obviously something's going to happen. It's not like zero will happen. But what is happening is not the truth. We understand it as a physical, chemical, physical thing. It's on this sort of physical, corporeal level. It's not a real spiritual insight. Real spiritual insight comes with conformity, with following orders, with following what we're supposed to follow. So this is quite significant. Obviously, I'm talking about the broader religious experience around the world. He's talking simply about the experience of Muslims, but I just wanted to give you guys a wider lens. But inside Islam, this happens as well, where people, they claim that they're following the Sunnah, but what they're doing is not following the Sunnah because they're just so used to going against everything. The people that are saying everything is haram and everything is bid'ah, that's actually not the Sunnah. Right? The Prophet ﷺ didn't speak like that. Okay, principle 92. Reward is based on how much instruction is followed, not on the difficulties therein. So we are rewarded by doing what we're supposed to do. Not that I was doing something that was so hard. This is also another psychology that people can get into, where they feel if they do something very difficult, I fasted every day this year. Okay, you might feel good about yourself, but actually we have a hadith that tells us not to do that. That's not the optimal way to fast. The best way of fast is the fast of David alayhi salam. He would fast one day and break his fast one day, fast one day and break it, which is actually much more difficult than fasting. If you fasted every day for 365 days, within 3-4 days, your body's just going to get used to it. So you're actually not really even experiencing it. But because you are focusing on your quantity, what you did, you feel like you did this great feat. And he's saying that's not where the reward is. The reward is doing what you are supposed to do. This is due to the preeminence of faith, knowledge, remembrance, and recitation over physical action, which is much more difficult than the above. His saying, the Prophet ﷺ, your reward is according to your difficulties, is with special reference to a specific case and is not to be generalized, inasmuch as when he has given a choice in a matter, he invariably chose the easier one. So the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he was given a choice, he would find the easier choice and do it as long as there was no sin involved. It's a very well-known hadith. As he said, ﷺ, he who knows God best and fears him most is I. And the best of your religion is what is easiest, and so forth. God knows best. Okay, so it's about, again, conformity. And that's why Islam's a way of submission, right? We submit to, okay, at this time I need to stand up and pray. That's what submission is. It was easy for me to pray. I already had wudu and I was going to take a break anyway, and it was easy for me. Okay, it's fine. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be difficult. That's good. It was easy. But still stand and pray at that time every day. That consistency, that's where the difficulty is on the long term. Principle 93. Excess in worship is forbidden, just as laxness therein is also forbidden. Moderation is drawing from both sides. As has been said, the best of ways is moderation. Right? So our way is the moderate way, the middle way, which is actually very difficult because people have a tendency to want to be extreme in something. Extreme in their devotion, or extreme in their sin, or extreme in their thoughts or their ideas or their passions. It feels good to be extreme in certain things that you care about. So here, this is an important reminder that we are in the middle. So we don't do excess worship, neither do we leave off worship, but we follow what we need to follow in the middle. Those who, when they expand, are neither prodigal nor parsimonious. It's a verse from the Quran. And be thou not loud in thy prayer, nor hushed therein. Right? So you're in the middle. The Prophet ﷺ said, as for me, I rise and sleep, fast and break the fast. So this is the background of that hadith. Is the Prophet ﷺ overheard a couple of the companions saying, look, I'm not going to sleep at night. I'm going to stay up all night and pray. And the other man's like, you know what? I'm going to fast every single day. And the third man is like, you know what? I'm never going to get married. I'm just going to be like a celibate. So the Prophet ﷺ walked in. He's like, as for me, I pray and I sleep. I fast and I break my fast. And I marry and I have children. فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Whoever goes away from my way is not from me. Right? And that's a very important thing, because if you didn't know the background of the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ was there and you heard those people saying, I'm going to dedicate myself every night, I'm going to pray, we'd be like, oh, mashallah, this is a very pious person. This person is going to fast every day, like, oh, wow, mashallah. That's not the sunnah. That's not the way. The way is to be in the middle. He used to stay up for 1/2, 1/3, or 2/3 of the night, which is the middle ground between the one who stays up all night and the one who stays up a short amount of time. Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhuma was instructed to be moderate by fasting for 1/2 of the time, staying up for 1/2 of the night, and completing the recitation of the Quran in 7 days, in addition to other duties. Because Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, he had huge ascetic tendencies, and he was very, very devout and pious. So the Prophet ﷺ was helping him to regulate that. Hence, moderation is required for every acquired habit, because it is gentler on the soul and more effective for worship. Gentler on the soul is very important. So when you are extreme in anything, you kind of damage yourself, your soul, that is. But it's the moderate way, the gentle way, the way that we want Allah Ta'ala to be gentle with us and we want to be gentle with each other. Just small steps every day that will lead to the sort of seismic change that we seek, inshallah. Principle 94. Regulating as law that which has not been mentioned in the law is an act of innovation in religion. So he's talking about something that's outside of Islam. It's actually not a very good translation, but I'll fix it as we go along. Actually, let me just finish the whole sentence. Regulating as law that which has not been mentioned in the law is an act of innovation in religion, particularly if it opposes a legal principle. An example is fasting for a day because of a missed prayer the night before, which the legislator has not designated as a recompense. Rather, he has stated that the prayer must be made up before the morning prayer or before the end of the day. So for example, oh my God, I didn't pray Aisha last night. You know what? I'm going to fast today to make up for it. Whoa, what are you doing? There is no combination like that in our Sharia. If you missed a prayer, you got to make it up. If you missed a day of obligatory fast, you make it up. That's how you make it up. Don't make up something so you feel good about yourself. So he's saying this is what the bid'ah is. It's something that's external, meaning there are no principles or no sources within the Quran and the Sunnah that talk about that thing. And sometimes people can get into this psychology. Well, they'll just like sort of make up stuff so they feel good about themselves. Other examples are the recitation of the Fatiha before the prayer. So I'm going to pray Dhuhr now, but I'm going to recite the Fatiha before I start the prayer. You don't do that. We recite the Fatiha in the prayer. Specifying a time for the wird and the like, which have no textual basis from the legislator. This does not include what has been mentioned by a text or referred to, such as the assigned prayers before and after the obligatory prayer, the sunnah prayers or the rawatib, the invocations after the prayer, the recitation of the Quran, voluntary fasting and the like. So understand. Again, it's about conformity. So we have a way, we have a system, we have a path, we have rules. We just follow them. You don't have to make stuff up. Because what ends up happening is, like I said, you end up feeling good about yourself. So you just sort of self-talk and you just kind of led yourself astray. And there are people that's their problem, is they kind of just make a big mash of everything and they just kind of invented something like their own personal religion and like, I'm good. Well, you're good because you set the rules. I mean, of course you're good. You told yourself what to do and you're doing it. So of course you're going to feel good about yourself. Okay, and the last one. Principle 95. The extraction of something from its place always requires the introduction of its very opposite. So I have feature A in myself, and I want to replace it. I got to replace it with feature B, and I got to move feature A out. I can't just erase it. I got to replace it with something, which is a key teaching of our spiritual methodology. If it is multiple, then there are many opposites. If there is one, then there is one according to the law of God, not according to one's point of view, even though reason dictates otherwise. This is why the initiate at the beginning is given their powers, what is in his self. Halfway into the path, a particular prayer is singled out for the initiate in order to concentrate his aspiration and make the ultimate reality stand out all the more. This is after he has borne in mind the canonical litany, whether it be an invocation or something else, in accordance with what is generally found, but God knows best. Again, the translation is not holding up, but what it means is that in the beginning of the path, the murid is given a lot of dhikr, a lot to be able to replace some of the things that are inside their self that need to be replaced. And then over time, it's like you go wide and then you focus on one dhikr. And that's basically an explanation of how our methodology is with the divine names. We go through the 13 divine names and then the 99 divine names. And then after you do all of that, which takes like a couple of years, you zero in on one name. For most of us, it's Allah. And then that just becomes the name that you invoke with. So the reason there is that wide kind of quantity in the beginning is because there are many things that we are trying to replace in our damaged self or in our lower self, and we are trying to rise the levels of the self. So we are given a lot in the beginning and high numbers of dhikr, as you guys know, and then we are slowly zeroing in where you have a singular focus, because now you are at the point where you can sharpen that focus. So this also applies if we're talking about character traits. So I'm angry. So I have to replace anger with the opposite of anger, which is being generous or being calm. I can't just say I don't want to be angry anymore and that's it. Well, you got to replace it with its opposite. I'm stingy. So I need to replace stinginess with being generous. So there's always this, I'm going to replace this negative trait with the positive trait and slowly move the negative trait out till now I have adopted this new trait. That's also one of the applications of this principle. والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم وصلى اللهم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.